Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM. And once again you find me starting this episode of What's Broken Now from inside a vehicle, and for once it's not the Transit that I borrowed from work. Yes, that was not an option today. So instead I've borrowed my friend's Hilux, and that's because behind me I've now got the NX. Yes, which if you remember last time we took away to have some work done to it. And now it has been repaired, and so I've loaded it back up, and frankly my friends who have done the work for me don't want it in their workshop for any longer than it needs to be, so back we go to the shed. Unbelievably, we start off this month's episode with some positive progress then. Don't expect it to last, guys, it's a once off, isn't it? And with that, welcome to What's Broken Now.
So, if it looks a little bit strange that I'm marking out a random piece of steel, well, it's because we've invested in some new tools in the shed. Two in particular, one I found and one Lawrie's acquired, so should we take a look at them? That's right, we've now got ourselves a welder. I bought this online and yes, it was rather cheap, but actually it's been amazingly good. I mean, this is the best welder we have in the shed. The others we have are terrible, and this has actually served us pretty well. Done some little jobs with it so far, but at the minute it's kind of annoying having to kneel down on the floor and try and stick two pieces of metal together, so I'm doing the first welding project, which you should do, considerably later. I'm going to build a welding cart for this to go on. And for that, unfortunately, I need to cut some of this metal to length, and I don't really trust my skills with an angle grinder. So Lawrie found us something else.
And here is our latest acquisition. It's they called it a bandsaw in the description, and I don't think it is. It's a motorised hacksaw, basically. It's a big one. It's a proper big piece of cast metal. Basically, we've got a motor on here which turns this wheel here, which in turn then causes the saw to move, as you can just about see it rocking back and forth. This actually means that we're actually starting to make a workshop. Now, you may have seen it on the back of the trailer in the previous shots when we brought the NX back. Yeah. It's not an easy thing to move. And yes, I know what you're all saying. This is very well, Lawrie, but does it work? Yes, it does. And I've even got a new blade for it here. So, actually going to make this thing work. Needs a clean, needs a little bit of this and that sorting out on it, but basically, equipment.
It's going up before.
Oh.
What?
That belt is slipping. So the drive comes out here.
Yeah.
Down to that flywheel down here.
Yeah.
And then it turns it over, but it's this belt here, which has now got a whole load of slack in it. See, you can pull it off. So what to do is we pull a link out of that.
Yeah.
Because it's an adjustable, and I'm pretty sure I understand how this works. It should then work properly.
It's like what's on your Locos fan belt.
It is. It's one of these.
That came off worryingly easily.
That's because it's overly slack. Okay, so it should just be, we slide that like that and break it. Come on, tin snips.
I thought you said you knew what you were doing. It's not the face of a man who knows what he's doing.
I may have lied.
Are we just guessing? Much like we do with everything in the shed.
No.
These are our precision machine tools, and they're being fixed by what looks like a random set of sheep shears from the 1800s.
I did it.
Good. Did you do it?
Yes.
I like how you just opted for the bigger one, like it's going to somehow make up for it now.
it is. It's going to fix all of our problems.
That big one's blunt. Actually, I think they're all blunt, to be fair.
I think they all could do with the sharpen.
Not the hammer draw. Every solution's a nail, right?
It didn't work.
No, I didn't think it would.
I'm going back to using the big cutters. The other bit popped off so easy. Like that.
That bit did as well. Is it fixed now?
Yes.
You sure?
No.
Can you make it fit?
Maybe. Right, so that now hooks on. So we're pushing that piece. Now, normally on a belt that is in slightly less life expired condition, this swap is significantly easier. But that is that back together, so I just need to get that piece through there, which is just going to go.
I'm glad we don't trust our life to this machine, I'll say that much.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
That sounds like another belt engaging. Oh, that's spinning faster. Maybe turn the speed down.
I fixed it.
Yeah, I know. Maybe turn the speed down now.
That control doesn't work.
Oh, does it not? Is
No.
it just this speed now?
It is.
That's a very aggressive speed.
I did something and I fixed it.
Where?
It's on video.
Yeah, but we've not made it cut anything yet.
I wouldn't have epoxy cut anything before, would it?
So, as you can see, I have built us a welding cart. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is not my finest work. However, for a first attempt, I'm really quite pleased with myself. Now, one of the issues I have with building this, you can't actually tell from your current angle, but the whole shed is kind of, well, it's not exactly level. And me, being an intelligent person, when I built the base, I was like, make sure that's all level, put a spirit level on it, all good. Make sure the top's level, line them all up, all good. So everything is level, apart from the shed, which means it got a bit wonky on me. It's not the worst thing in the world. As long as the weld is on this size, the fact it overhangs a little bit here actually doesn't affect anything. But yeah, it's a welding cart. It keeps all of our welding stuff together. I want to eventually put some further shelves in there just to get all of our grinders and stuff on here, and yeah, nice little bit of kit. It still does need a paint to stop it from rusting away like everything else in the shed, but hopefully this is going to allow us to move on with some projects which we couldn't really tackle before. So all things considered, we've done okay.
With Matt's newfound skill on the welder, I was able to twist his arm into getting on with something that I'd needed fixing for a long time, and that was some of the rot on the 35. So I also managed to persuade Morgan to help me strip down the old paint and get it back to bare metal, and then we handed it over to Matt.
Now, although this sounds absolutely awful, it is kind of working. Sadly, this metal is so thin on this tractor that any power at all going through it will immediately just blow a new hole in it. So, it's not pretty, however, it does tend to clean up reasonably well.
Oh wow, is that what you've done?
Yeah.
Oh dude, that looks awesome. That's flush. I mean, considering that was all like this. Yeah, so to kind of go back in the story, when I was wire brushing this side, I found it was quite holy. That's really good. That's really good.
It's all right.
That's really good. When we paint over that, you'll never see it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do this for anything structural, but as it's literally just bodywork hidden away on the tractor, It's literally just about
That's going to be
making
fine. With
metal
paint
appear.
over, that will be fine. So the plan is put some more weld onto that, and then we'll just
Sand it
it
back.
down.
Yeah.
Because the problem is, and the other side of this is the framework for it, so we can't
Get to
to it without. And I really don't want to drill the rivets out.
And there's so much rust behind there. It's not an ideal way to learn to weld, but it seems to be working okay, so I'm going to keep going until it explodes.
Do you realise what a thing this is for us? We are putting metal back into something. We're actually achieving something.
Well, the flat disc hides the sins of what I've just done, like, reasonably well. So
It's still good.
it kind of looks like a good weld, but it's not.
It smells very hot.
I know, this is what I'm doing to warm up. It's the express reason I've been welding all day, is just because of the heat. But no, it will probably need sanding back a little bit further on there, and then probably it'll have a couple of micro holes I need to fill.
That's fine, but I mean, the whole piece is warped anyway, so...
Yeah,
it's
all dinged and dented.
It's better
here.
than it. I don't want to get rid of the dings and dents because I like it as part of the character.
Yeah,
But, that's brilliant.
I'm gonna fix it.
We're fixing it.
I've actually just looked as well, and you can see there's so much texturing in the metal.
Oh, yeah.
Is that this isn't actually going to look that different from just all the random pitting and scarring in it anyway?
It's going to be great. And he's tried a couple of techniques. We tried just sticking some beads of metal in and trying to smooth it off. But then he decided he'd do it properly and use the welder to blow through all the thin, rusty metal and putting a nice new piece of metal. Now, this is much better than just filling it with filler, because it actually means there is structure there and it kind of makes it feel proper. And frankly, considering it was Matt's first go at trying to do something thin, and I appreciate that a tractor is quite thick compared to the tin that they use on cars or, say, Red Roof, but considering his first go at doing bodywork, I am overjoyed with the result. And it actually means the tractor is moving forward. This is something that even a few months ago we couldn't do, whereas now we're like, oh well, at least Matt's like, I can do this. So this means moving forward, things like the little bit of welding that the NX needed, that meant that I had to borrow the van, the trailer, load it up, transport it to my friends, deliver it there, return the van and trailer to work, then persuade my friends that I could nick their Hilux and trailer and transport the thing back here, are potentially things of the past. We could actually do it here, which is going to save a remarkable amount of time, and it's really exciting for the concept of what we could get on with. There was one small problem, however, about offloading the NX. You may have noticed that I was on my own, and without an engine in the front end, and the wheels on, well, loosely, it doesn't really push very well, mostly because it doesn't have drive shafts in anymore to help keep the wheels in place, and so they just keep flapping around and locking themselves up on the brakes. So to try and push it back to where it lives, this was difficult. So I had an idea. I'd go get Atlas out. Atlas didn't work. After all the excitement of moving Jupiter, it refused to move the NX, which was disappointing, which meant that I now had a new problem. What was wrong with my little tug? Hello everyone. So recently, well, when I say recently, I mean this morning, I've had a problem with Atlas. It was sluggish yesterday, and I thought, that's interesting. And this morning I went to pull it out of its holy hole, and it wouldn't move under its own free will. And so I put it on the pallet truck, lifted it up, and it did not have enough oomph to turn over its own wheels. And so I was thinking, it's in the motor as the battery, but after fiddling with it for a bit, it seems to have freed off whatever it was. So I imagine it's just something seized due to the excessive cold in here. But I thought you can hear the noise now as it powers up.
can't really decide what I think it sounds like. It's either a washing machine on full cycle or some kind of like express locomotive. It's somewhere in between the two. This stuff's not turning. That's interesting. Oh, that's where the problem lies. Interesting. Interesting. Use a piece of wood to block that hole. It just had a sticky mechanism.
Having jacked the thing up, it had no power, but it was strange because the charger seemed to think it had been at full charge. It stopped charging and turned itself off. Eventually, having got the wheels off, I managed to get it to start turning over and running properly again. Very strange. I thought, well, maybe something had seized up in the mechanism, lack of oil. Don't know. Then I did the thing that most people would have done to start off with. I checked the battery. What I'm doing at the moment is going through the batteries, checking to see if they've got water in them and if they're leaking. Now, you can see the ones I've done so far, which have an L on them, which is L for leaking, and they've lost fluid. Then this one here has got a B on it because that one boils. So that one's got a little low, so we'll just stick the funnel in there and just chuck a bit of distilled water in. So what I'm just doing is logging each one that's got a leak on it, so I know those ones are worth keeping an eye on. And if I keep an eye on it, so I know if they are indeed losing water, or if they're not, and it was just a once-off. But I did fill up all these the other day, so far about 50% of the sales are suspect. Yay! It's knackered. I am very aware at this stage I'm going to have to replace at least some of the cells. The ones which I think have leaked now are marked with a nice big X, and those are the ones I need to keep an eye on. One of them very definitely needs to be replaced in the not too distant future. The others, well, we'll see, and we'll see if they magically stop using fluid, especially if they've actually got battery acid in them rather than just water. So that's, well, it's okay. It just needs a little more fettling, but it is working and it's now back to full strength. Thinking of other projects, something magical happened in the shed. After months of it sitting around not doing anything, Morgan actually attacked one of his own projects. And here we see the Morgan, far removed from his natural habitat. The most important thing to notice about this, that he still doesn't know whether out of the 3 Fiats that he owns, if any of them have a working engine or gearbox, because clearly the door is the most important thing to get on with. Of course, I couldn't leave him for too long working on this before I gave him some more stuff that I needed cleaning up. With the NX returned, it meant that in order to fit it back into the ever-growing collection, we had to have a bit of a shifty round of stuff inside the shed, which meant that some of the cars that haven't been outside for a while got to bask in the glorious light of spring. It was really nice to get things out, especially the moggy outside again, and made me realise how much I love the little car, despite the fact it now doesn't work at all. In order to move things around, I'd pushed the NX outside. And I found that with the rest of the team, pushing it outside, that wasn't a problem at all. It turns out that the shed is very slightly not level. And not level in the way that pushing it outside, that's easy. I could probably have done that on my own. Pushing things back inside, however, that's where the issue comes. And as I'd sent everybody else home, I couldn't do it, especially as there is a slight little lip. It's a bit of a ramp to get into the shed. And of course at this time, Atlas was still out of action. So that meant there was but one vehicle that I could call upon in my time of need. My hero car. Off the back of that, it was, however, the first day since lockdown first started that the entire team was back together. And I'd broken some things, so I asked Trev to have a look.
Are you tired of not being able to sand upside down? Congratulations, the new Silverline Magical Sander.
Oh, it didn't sound happy about. Does it rev depending on what angle it's at?
Yeah.
It just kicked.
I'm like someone on.
Oh,
on
it's
a night
dead
out.
now.
Oh.
Shake it.
Lawrie, all you got to do is
It's
work
a manual
it a little bit.
sander. Why haven't you stopped?
I'm going to get an electrocution in a minute, aren't I?
And we're not
Then
going
it'll really shake.
we're not going to notice any different. It would just be.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it might not be working very well.
There is definitely a problem with it, I'll give you that.
It's broken.
It's like a shake weight.
It transpires that I might indeed now need a new detail sander. And initially, the fact that it's knackered really annoyed me because I thought it's had no use. And then I was reminded by Matt that not only have I used it to sand down the entirety of my Massey 35, I initially bought it way back before the channel started, where one of the first jobs that me, Matt and Trevor did was sanding down my Ruston 48. So it's done well, actually, because I sanded down a lot of that loco with that. Oh well, I guess I need a new one. So, on the subject of the rest of the team, Matt's been kind of busy with the Starlet.
So, somewhat unfortunately, but not particularly unusually for us here at LMM, the Starlet has failed its MOT. Now, none of these are really particularly big issues. They're all kind of minor little things, but one of the big things I really needed to sort out was, well, apparently the seats are insecure, and So, just how was an incompetent buffoon, like me, going to fix this seat? Well, it's quite simple. It requires a bracket. Not really the best bracket in the world, but it will do, and I might go into just how I made this at a later date. But what this will do is it will offset the bolt where the seat should be to where the seat is now, and I can put this little nut on there and balance it out, and hopefully I'll actually fix this car. So here's my neat little offset bracket, handily installed, with a 25mm spanner on a little 25mm piece of bar. Now, this kind of marks a momentous occasion because this is the first time something I've ever created has gone on a car. I've bought on aftermarket parts before, but I made this, and no matter how terrible it is, if it works, I'm going to be thrilled. Would you look at that? Front bolts lined up, my rear pegs lined up, back bolts lined up. I fixed something. Now the difficult job's out the way and these seats are done, I can move on to the more niggly bits, like the headlights, which just required a polish, and I found a new tool for that. So apparently, to go through its MOT, these headlights are a little bit too clouded, and they're not awful, but they're fine. So I've been trying out a new product over here, and well, bloody hell, it's good. Like, genuinely, I always thought polishing headlights was the way to go, but these wipes are amazing. Well, I didn't get any before shots because I'm a bit of a numpty, but that's looking very smart by comparison. I've just applied the final wipe now, and it just needs to be left to dry for far too long, actually. In this cold weather, it's probably not going to dry at all, but well, it's getting somewhere. I just need to remove my hideous abomination of masking tape now. So, with some nice clear headlights, that's now going to get through an MOT, which is wonderful. The other issue I was going to tackle was the fog lights not working. Now, I was terrified about this because the wiring in this car has been absolutely butchered in its past life, which means I was afraid I was going to be chasing wires, all this, there and the other in the car, and just trying to find out where everything went. Fortunately, it was a lot more sensible than that, and all I had to do was, in fact, test the switch, because it's broken. So, as we can see, fog light switch does absolutely nothing. However, if I remove this and bridge some contacts, like so, ta-da! So with this bridged, the fog light is illuminated. Now, that means that, fortunately, it's not a bulb out and it's not a wiring issue. It is literally just this switch which is dead, which means a replacement is in order. This normally wouldn't be too much of an issue, apart from the fact that the cheapest one I could get was in Lithuania and would cost 30 quid to get here. So I was on the verge of trying to repair this, and wait, I just don't know how. And then I found a car getting broken in Norwich, so that went away and I got a new one for 10 quid. So you can see here my abomination soldered up switch, which is what I've been using to test. This is actually the spare one I bought, which it turns out it's not the switch at fault. It's something weird in the wiring, and I personally think it's because it's got a Glanzer dash and Glanzer switches on a UK model harness. So I think something's wrong. What I've been doing here is trying to work out where everything goes and where everything should go, and I'm kind of none the wiser at the minute. But if we put you down for a second, I will show you something, because right now this switch does absolutely nothing when pressed. However, if I turn the headlights on, we get a little light illuminated down here. If I push the switch, you can hear a solenoid actuating. If the headlights are off, see, absolutely nothing when the headlights are off. Unfortunately, this isn't toggling the fog lights at all, even with the headlights on, so something's definitely skewy in this wiring here, and I'm not quite sure what it is at the moment. So unless I've got two duff switches, I have no idea what's going on here. This is the switch, and I've tried all these combination of wires, I've worked out what everything does, but it just never works if it's on. However, this, which is the weird grotty switch which used to live there for the underglow it had, that works fine. Fog lights work. So I've got no idea. It might just get jerry-rigged up like this to go through its MOT, and then I'll actually fix it properly at a later date when I can bother to work out just why Toyota would make a switch this complicated. It's just ridiculous. Okay, I don't think you can smell that, but I definitely just let the magic smoke out of this capacitor here. So I think I just fried this switch by shorting out LH to illumination plus. Now what this has taught me is that I don't care for this anymore, and we're going to use the weird ghetto method with this switch instead. Because. So with the seats now fixed in place and not going anywhere in a hurry, the headlights are all polished up, so they're perfect, and the fog lights work. At least they work for an MOT, and they work for if it is foggy I can turn them on and actually people can see me. That leaves us two remaining jobs on the Starlet before it can get its MOT. The first is tyres. I'm not doing those myself, a garage can fit those for me. I've got a pair of new Michelin Pilot Sports in the back, so they should be wonderful. Now the other job which needs doing is the rear brakes, which are currently unbalanced. Now initially I was going to sort this out myself, so I've got some new brake shoes, I've got some new brake cylinders in the back, and I was going to get all these put in and hope that'd work. But the issue is that would just be a hope. I actually have no way of testing if that's the problem or if what I did actually worked, so I'm going to send that to a garage, and that has the added plus side of me not having to deal with drum brakes. And all that means that I should actually have a working car again. I won't need to borrow someone else's. Then I just need to stop it looking so ratty, and then I need to turbo it, obviously, and the interior needs sorting out. I want to put something in the rear, and yeah, quite far away.
And after Matt gave the Starlet a service, and it was presented with a shiny and fresh MOT with no advisories, I don't know how he bribed them, but no advisories. The Starlet is back on the road, and you might not know this, guys, but Matt's actually been without a car for several months now. So that's a huge relief for the boy to have the car back. And he's got a plan. As you've probably noticed, the Starlet isn't actually one colour. No, it's a harlequin made up of many colours. And Matt had been attempting to wrap it. But now he's moved on, and we've got a new plan. Having mucked around a lot with the MR2 and its exhaust, which turns out on your own is an exceptionally difficult thing to do. It doesn't quite fit. And as you saw last month, I managed to put it back together, and so I thought, well, I really should take it out and just make sure that it's all good. So I fired it up. And then I just took it outside and trundled up and down the drive a few times. And you know what? I'm pleased to report, even after giving a nice gentle bit of driving up and down and giving it some beans, it actually has held together, successfully did something, which is great. And then finally, I'm sat in Viking. And that does actually mean that there's some news with it. Yes. Me and Morgan decided it's time that it goes back onto its wheels. We thought this was going to be a simple task of just putting the wheel back on and taking it off its jacks. Ah, well, not quite.
So I'm just cleaning up this hub. This is where the wheel's supposed to sit, but if there's so much gunk here, it's probably going to sit on the piss, isn't it?
I guess that this probably hasn't had a clean for...
Decades.
Yeah, quite likely. I love how when you push inwards on it, the whole thing kind of...
There's no air in the tyre.
It's a little flat, isn't it?
A little, at least. And as it's not been on the tractor without any weight on it, I'd suggest it's got pretty bad puncture then.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's been a... The funny thing is, I'm pretty sure when I got it, it had pump-top tyres, but...
Might want to whack the compressor on.
Yes, I'll go get it and get it charged up. Is it actually going to fit, or does it need to go up to get on there?
I don't know. I've got a bit of carpet underneath, which doesn't help.
So what I've done here, which is slightly dodgy, I've just lifted the axle up slightly using the jack we have here to see if this will go on it now. Hopefully. Oh, I have lifted it sufficiently.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
The problem is, can't get that in there. There's always a plan.
Yeah.
Always a plan.
And truth be told, Morgan actually has done a rather good job. And it did take the better part of a morning. Things like just the sheer amount of dirt that came out of it when he dropped it over. This thing has led a rather, well, unloved life. And the final piece was, after we managed to put the thing back on and pumped it up, we found that the inner tube is totally useless and immediately lets all of the air out. So it isn't quite ready. Now, the reason for pushing the wheel back on is, although somebody removed the steering rams and disappeared with them, it turns out that you don't actually need the power steering rams. You see, the steering box still moves the arms in the same way as my Massey 35. So as long as there's nothing in the front end to weigh it down, you should be able to steer this and drive it like a normal tractor. Which means that if we just put the wheel back on and somehow either block or put a pipe in that returns the hydraulic oil back to itself, this thing will become mobile again. Which would be great considering it's done nothing for months. So that's something we're going to look at next month, is how to make up some pipey things to get it mobile. So that'll be something to look forward to when you have this thing out and about again. And it is nice to actually have done something with it. And of course, with Matt's new skill at welding, well, there's one or two little bits on this that need doing. So that's something to look forward to. Let us know in the comments below. Are you excited for this thing to fire up on its own again? I'm particularly excited. And with that, guys, I think that pretty much sums us up for what we've been up to this month in the shed. some things have gone forward. At least I've got all of my vehicles back under one roof again. So that's positive. And if you have enjoyed this one, how about clicking over there somewhere for the last episode of What's Broken Now? And if you're feeling in a Viking mood, as I am, sat in the back of it, how about clicking over there for the video where we went and collected this after you wonderful people helped save her from scrap. And with that, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time. That made noises, and I don't think it was meant to make noises.